The John Lebang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised.
Worldwide and out to the greater universe, you're listening to the John Lebang Show.
Back in black and gray, for those of you watching in on the Banger Cam, thank you for joining me. Another excursion is awaiting you. There's headlines in the news. We got the Tiger Woods issue we might touch on. Of course, Joepedo, he's doing his little thing. Many other things to talk about, but I thought I'd discuss this issue because there was a man who was mutilated by another man because he had been sleeping with the man's wife. And now it's made the mainstream media. It's the man who was attacked. Not only was he kidnapped in his own house, but the guy tied him up and then proceeded to saw off his Schmeckle, at least 3/4 of it or something like that. And then some of the interviews that we've heard over this story, the gentleman who was mutilated is complaining that he's having trouble having sex with his wife now. I would imagine so. But did you catch that, ladies and gentlemen? So here we have a guy sleeping with the guy's wife. The guy's married, sleeping with the guy's wife. So the guy who mutilated, I mean, I'm not for a song off Schmeckles. I mean, trust me. I mean, every man deserves to have his Schmeckle, no matter how large or how big it is. And some of us already have trouble with size issues. So the last thing you want is to have your Schmeckle sawed off. Maybe you can go down to Africa and get the addictomy surgery. We talked about that guy. I guess it was successful. Or he could join that secret society that does circumcision. He's been circumcised really well. I mean, and I don't mean to make light of the situation, because that's a terrible thing for this guy to be mutilated over. But kind of asking for it, bro. Here you are, married, sleeping with a guy's wife. And I know that's a thing that's kind of rampant these days. And not everybody is going to saw off the Schmeckle of the dude sleeping around with your wife. Some people will just go get a divorce or something, because it really is the wife's fault, too. I mean, the guy's a douchebag. But what's the deal today with everybody sleeping around on everybody? And that's hurting the single crowd, because you can't because everybody's carrying an ex that they still hang around with. And I know many of us have fallen into this thing where you're unfaithful, whether it was in response to your spouse or your partner being unfaithful, or just initiating the unfaithfulness or participating, because you may not have officially initiated it if someone approached you, but if you engaged in it. And I'm no holy saint here, and I'm not trying to talk on some high mountain because we've all done things we probably shouldn't have. But it boils down to how we are treating each other. We absolutely have no respect for somebody else's, whatever. Their feelings, their whatever it might be. That you would be involved with somebody, and before getting involved with somebody else, that you wouldn't disengage totally. That's a problem in this world today. And I may sound like I'm trying to, again, be on some kind of moral high ground, but I'm not. Because we've all had our stumbles. We've all made mistakes that we shouldn't have, or that we had given into our more animalistic behaviors because of whatever reason. And so the thing I'm trying to grasp, because it's amazing this doesn't happen more often, is my viewpoint on this. Because the way things have developed over the past year and a half, 2 years, especially with the boogie woogie virus doing its thing. But regardless, the idea that everybody's just can't be faithful to one person. Now, it's different if you want to be in a relationship that allows polygamy, or that brings in a third person, or maybe you're swingers or whatever, if that's understood from the get-go. But that should also be all talked out with all parties involved, and no party should be in the dark about anything. Like if this guy's wife wanted to sleep around with the other dude, why can't you just go, hey, I want to do this, and see what the partner says? The partner may not like it. The partner may not agree with it or accept it or whatever, but at least you're open and honest about it. And then the dude who had a wife who was sleeping around with the other dude's wife, he should have been open and honest about it. Tell your, hey, this is what I want to do. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Maybe your partner will accept that. I don't know. Maybe they won't. But it's how we treat each other. Like, what is the problem with people being honest about either how they feel or what they want to do instead of the sneaking around stuff? Because all this sneaking around stuff ends up costing more pain in the end, more sorrow, more trouble. Because let's point out, because I've had a spouse that was very unfaithful. We all develop like these little patterns with each other, whatever it may be. And when those patterns deviate, you begin to realize that something's wrong there. And if it goes from an open relationship where everything's great and then things seem to taper off or things back up, if people aren't open and honest about why that's happening, the person who still wants the relationship to continue the same way is going to be under a tremendous amount of pressure. Because some people don't like that kind of change, and especially if you like somebody a lot. Or in today's world, if you fall in love with them. But at this point, is it even worth putting that much emotion into a person? When we realize, and I'm just using this one example, But I know who I talk to. I know who I interact with. I've heard stories. Faithfulness to one person, and I'm not talking about on a sexual level, but faithfulness to a person on the level of just being honest with what's going on is out the door. People then will use subterfuge or just straight lie or deceive or whatever. And in the case of my former wife, she really didn't know who she was dealing with because I'm one of the ultimate investigators for nobody. I'm really a nobody. And I learned how to investigate because I had to do it myself. I had to do everything myself. So when our patterns changed, things like my wife started coming home later, or not coming home at all, or she didn't want to have relations with me, well then you start wondering what's up. And you ask them what's going on, and they'll lie or deceive instead of telling you up front. Because if my wife would have said something like, I don't know, hey, there's this dude interested in me at work, kind of thinking I want to hang out with him, I might not have liked that situation. I might not have preferred to hear that, but at least I knew. But because she decided to deceive me and use subterfuge and make up excuses, oh, I'm busy. I began to investigate. And maybe other people aren't as savvy in their investigations, or they accept what happens. But I'm a curious fella, so I began to investigate. And that's when I found, and if I was a nut job like the guy who was cheated on by his wife with this other dude, if I was a nut job, I would have went ahead and sawed off this guy Schmeckle like this guy. But all I wanted was to know. So I knew how to deal with it. Because information is key. And when there's a lack of information, when there's a lack of openness, when there's some secrecy, I'm not talking privacy, I'm talking secrecy. When there's things on those levels, that's where all the trouble starts, because you can't keep the lies forever. The lies will come out, and if you're dealing with anybody like me, not only am I going to find out the lies, I'm going to hold you to it. But not to the regard of this guy who decides he needs to saw off the dude. What about your wife, bro? Don't you think your wife had something to do with that? But again, all that could have been avoided if his wife said, hey, this dude's wanting to do something. How do you feel about that? And the guy would have probably said, I don't like it. And then his wife should have said, okay, thanks a lot, I won't do it then. That would be, if that's your husband, or if that's your boyfriend, or if you're even dating somebody. Because that's another thing that I've noticed just by the social medias, is you have women who are perpetually single or have been married multiple times, and they can't just date one guy for a while and see how that works out. So they date multiple guys, and it never works out for them. Nothing ever falls into place because of that. So they are perpetually single, or they run through and get married to the wrong guys for the wrong reasons. But that's today's world. That's what we're experiencing. It's much better, ladies and gentlemen, If you have those feelings, if you're really wanting to go outside of your marriage for certain fulfillments, whether it be sexual, mental, whatever. Because sometimes your spouse or your partner just doesn't give you what you need. Should tell them about it. See if that can't be fixed, for one. And for two, if you're open and honest, you're cutting out a lot of the BS that you'll have to deal with down the road. Just say, hey, this is what I want to do. What do you think about that? How do you feel about that? Or even tell them, this is what I'm going to do. And unfortunately, I don't care how you feel about that. But I'm telling you because at least I'm giving you the benefit of going, okay, I at least know. Maybe we should try that on for size, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a quick break. I'll be right back. Hey, Uncle Shady, where are they going?
Hey, you, get back here. The John Lebang Show will be right back.
Are you in need of commercial or residential window cleaning? Do you need your office cleaned? Maybe custodial work? How about some gutter cleaning? If you do, then call Pane in the Glass. For a beautiful shine that's crystal clear, call Pane and the Glass. You can find them on Facebook at Pane and the Glass.
You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
It's better than an Eye-Raider convention.
Have you seen the latest Coca-Cola commercial, ladies and gentlemen? I don't know about you, but I think that's as racist as it comes. I mean, according to the terms of racism that is used today. Of course, many people wouldn't think that's racist because anything anti-white people, as most people like to banty about, if you're anti that, that's okay. Can't be anti anything else, but you can be anti that. Especially if it's a male that's straight. Then you can be full-blown anti that. Maybe that's my problem. Maybe that's my problem. Although, technically, I'm not full-blown Anglo. I have some Spanish and some Cherokee in my bloodline. You know, and a little Italian. I have a little Italian in my bloodline, too. So I'm not technically Anglo, which is the proper term, not the term white. Because I've looked at all those people, ain't none of them white. That's what I'm saying. Pale skin, you know, little peachy at times, depending. I mean, skin color, right? Little olive lookings, depending on where your heritage is. What gets me is this anti-sentiment towards people of that persuasion. I mean, can we look at history just a little bit, folks? That's all I'm saying. Can we look back at history? Wow. Boy, this is going to make people mad, but I don't care anymore. Because I'm offended by Coca-Cola. And I'm offended by the corporation that I'm stuck working for right now. Pushing the same kind of narrative on us because now we have an administration that's forcing this crap down our throat. But let's just look at the situation, folks, in a historical terms, okay? While people were down in Africa, either running away from lions chasing them or other big cats or animals, gators and stuff, crocs and stuff, while they were doing that and enslaving each other, the Anglo people had to figure out how to survive in the cold, had to figure, and this is the big one, folks, had to figure out how to defeat the monarchies so we could have a semblance of freedom in this world. They had to invent a whole lot of things. And while some of the other parts of the world were also absorbing the excess slave trade that the United States didn't take on, right? Places in Asia and the Middle East all got their, they all went to the same people to buy their human resources. It didn't just all flow to the Americas, despite popular belief, So when I hear this crap, this anti-Caucasian sentiment, this anti-Anglo sentiment, it's a little offensive. Because without that Anglo, we wouldn't have freedom. It wasn't people from the Middle East charging for freedom. It wasn't people from Asia trying to make freedom happen. It wasn't people in Africa trying to make freedom happen. Notice I didn't point out a single race there, folks. I'm speaking in parts of the world. If you don't know the difference, well, maybe you need to get re-educated. It was the Anglos who had to innovate everything to make freedom happen, to then expand on freedom to the point, I'm not saying exclusively, but give some people a little credit. If it wasn't for the Anglo ingenuity, the world wouldn't have freedom. The world wouldn't have went to space. The world wouldn't have some of the weapons we have too. So yes, that ingenuity also developed some bad stuff as well. But to hate a particular group of people again, I thought we were past this in America, right? No, it is just shifted. That is the legacy of mankind. Not America, ladies and gentlemen. This has happened throughout history across many spectrums, touching every single empire that has ever existed. It boils down to tribes holding other tribes slaves. It is not uniquely specific to the history of the United States. But what is uniquely the history of the United States is bringing freedom to the world. There was no freedom before the United States. And if this bastion of freedom, bastion of freedom ceases to exist, freedom is probably going to die with it. And there are many of those who would love that to happen, including Joepedo and his little Blue Fairy Syndicate. So spare me the anti-Caucasian sentiment. It is the Anglo that has been welcoming everybody with open arms for generations. Because we know freedom isn't something exclusively for Anglos. We want everybody to have real freedom. But there's not going to be freedom when you have Coca-Cola being straight up full-blown racist. I'm never buying a Coke again. You can have a Coke and a middle finger. This is absolutely absurd in how they are not boycotted by every Anglo and anybody anybody at all who believes in some kind of freedom and who hates, who despises racism, because that's exactly what that is. Quote unquote, whiteness is not something to be ashamed of. Whiteness doesn't promote a ghetto culture, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, most people don't want to talk about that. Because you're not allowed to be an Anglo anymore. It is a forbidden sector of society. If you're a straight Anglo male, forget about it. How is that not racism? It is absolutely absurd, the bigotry that is continually rising, not only here in the United States, but across the globe. And they flip it around to make it sound like it's not. Like you to be the bad guy, dude, you the bad guy. You got the wrong color skin, you the bad guy. I thought we were past that. People, profiling's bad, right? Remember when profiling was bad? It's only bad if it's not an Anglo. That's what's happening. That's exactly what's going on here. If you're an Anglo, go ahead and profile all you want. That's a Trumpster. That Anglo guy, he's a Trumpster. Yep, he's a big supporter of that orange man. Why are you talking like that? All the hillbillies hang around with the orange man. I don't know. I just thought it would do it that way. That's all. So we're just, okay, Tiger Woods, I better talk about that for a minute because it's a big thing. Who cares? I mean, he's just a golfer, okay? I'm sorry about his life, but there are many of us that do not get headline news when we crash our car and are severely injured. Depends on the news cycle. Right now, they're tired of talking about the boogie woogie because they know people are tired of it. People are tired about the medical burqa. So when they have a chance to divert your attention for a few days so you don't get just revolt against them, they'll do it. And they have, we have a golfer. We have a golfer who crashed their car. Terrible, he's hurt. And it's a tragedy. But I can tell you, if I did the same thing, I wouldn't get headline news on the Drudge Report or make it, because I'm a nobody. But he's a somebody because he golfs really good. Oh. And it's sad. I'm not wishing bad things on Tiger Woods. It's just something to divert your attention for a day, something so they don't have to talk about the boogie woogie. They can continue to ignore all the bad stuff Joepedo and his little team is doing. They can continue to they can give you a break on bashing Orange Man for a day or two because they know you're getting sick of that one too. Orange Man's been gone, and yet they have the shampeachment. Orange Man is gone, and now they're going to investigate. Orange Man is gone, and they're going to continue to talk about Orange Man. How obsessed are these people? Do they not have anything else they can talk about? There's nothing else newsworthy out there except Orange Man. We'll see you again. Thank you for joining us. And until the vibrations of my vocal cords reach your ears again, I'm John Lebang, signing off from the Banger Studios.
2, 1. Don't forget to go to the website, www.jalebang.com.